U.S. taxpayers bailing out General Motors, but will those same taxpayers lose out when it comes to auto jobs? Not if one lawmaker has anything to do with it. That's next on Bulls and Bears. Treasury Secretary Tim Geithner addresses concerns over the future of America's bankrupt automakers during a visit to China, home to nearly 17% of General Motors' global business. Here's what he had to say.
A successful transition to a more balanced, stable global economy is going to require very substantial changes to economic policy and to financial regulation around the world. But some of the most important of those changes are going to have to come in China and in the United States. How successful we are in Washington and in Beijing will be critically important to the economic fortunes of the rest of the world. And the effectiveness of U.S. policies will depend in part on China's, and the effectiveness of yours on ours.
Yeah, but our next guest is asking the government to play an even greater role in restructuring by keeping auto jobs here in the U.S. and out of China. We welcome Representative Dennis Kucinich, a Democrat from Ohio. Congressman, great to see you again. You know, when I first heard this idea that our tax dollars were going to essentially help the Chinese, just as they're going to help the Italians in fiat, I got angry. But doesn't this prove the point of those who are against bailouts, that we can't do them because folks like you will interfere with business decisions?
Well, when you consider the U.S. taxpayers have $50 billion invested in GM, it would make sense that that money, that investment, would go to create jobs in the United States, not eliminate jobs in the U.S. and create jobs in other countries.
Kucinich, I think when people saw that so many autos were going to be actually made in China and then imported to the U.S., people said, what the heck is going on here? We're losing all these jobs, but you don't want to get involved in protectionistic behavior, do you? Or is there a fine line you can walk?
Oh, really? Well,
go ahead.
You know, what I don't understand is what's wrong with protecting your own country when it's in a financial crunch, when businesses are failing everywhere, where there's a cash crunch and when there's not credit available? What's wrong with protecting America's ability to make cars, steel, aerospace, and ships?
Because it backfires, and we saw this in the Great Depression with Smoot-Hawley, and David's the expert on this. You have a backfiring
And I would say
process.
that we saw it with NAFTA, we saw it with the Financial Modernization Act and the TARP. That TARP, $700 billion, I voted against it. The Fed's printing money through their quantitative easing. That's resulting in many businesses getting money, but credit's not being loosened up, and the American workers losing his and her job while their tax dollars are being used to create markets so other countries can send their imports into the United States. Let's rebuild our infrastructure for manufacturing here. Don't get rid of all those dealerships. Save our plants. Put our money into America. I don't know why that sounds like it's so extraordinary.
Well, but Congressman, we're also helping Italians and their car company by essentially giving Fiat 30% of Chrysler. I mean, is that right?
Listen, I challenge this approach that's been taken. We need to strengthen America's manufacturing base. This is a national security issue. We're not going to have the ability to defend ourselves if we keep letting our manufacturing base be whittled away. And this isn't about being against any other country. It's about being for America and focusing taxpayers' resources. My God, we owed 61% now of GM, and we shouldn't have any say in their decisions about whether they're going to send jobs out of our country. Are you kidding me?
I know. It's a tough situation, and we saw it with AIG, where we have so much taxpayer money jumping into AIG, yet they were giving out all these bonuses. People got very, very upset. So, yes, there has to be a check and a balance system, certainly. Good
example. And AIG, what happened with AIG? They got their money, and then they sent it to counterparties all over the globe. Well, there's still businesses here in the United States that are starved for credit. I mean, we have to start looking at how the global economy is causing an exodus of wealth out of this country. That's a huge issue that's not being addressed.
But, Congressman, don't we have to address the issue? Look at all the examples we've been talking about. GM has problems with China. We have problems with taxpayer money going to help an Italian car company, Fiat. We have problems with pouring billions of dollars down AIG. Isn't this proof positive that government intervention in the markets doesn't work?
Well, you know, I wasn't for the TARP, but let me just tell you something. There's a larger issue here, which I think would be great if we could discuss in the future, and that is monetary policy. I mean, China has us over a box because of all the money that they've loaned and all the investments they have in this country, and because we have this huge trade deficit. But our monetary policy is locking us in where we don't have the flexibility to be able to meet the capital needs in our own country. And so I think that we have to look at monetary policy, the value of the dollar, trade policy. There's some wider issues here, and healthcare policy, and do everything we can to strengthen our manufacturing base. This is the way the middle class was created in America. This is the way we've been able to protect our country. And we ought to remember that that's worked in the past. It can work again.
Well, we would love to see it work again for the good auto workers of this nation who have tried so hard. But Representative Kucinich, thank you very much for joining us, and we'll be speaking with you again. He did, David, vote against the TARP back then in September when everybody
he's been consistent on that.
Yeah, exactly.